Welcome to Built for This, the podcast where real estate meets real life skills. Hosted by Andrea Lane and Alissa Bickar, each episode features investors turning their unique edge into long-term rental success.
Hello and welcome to the Built for This show. I am your co-host, Alissa Bickar, the Consultress, here with my partner in crime, Andrea Lane. We are bringing you real conversations with real people who are bringing their skills and their expertise to their real estate investment portfolio business. I am super excited for today's guest. Andrea, who do we have for him today?
So today we have someone that I personally consider a friend, Mark Abramovich. Really, thank you for coming, Mark. I really appreciate it. Let me tell you a little bit about Mark. I met him in 2017, I think, somewhere around there, really close. And he decided he wanted to get in real estate. We're going to talk about that. But now he owns 9 properties in 4 states. He owns a property management company, which I happen to know his wife runs. So I don't know what he has to do with it. And
I bring her coffee.
Okay. He's also known as Mark the Lender. He really became known as more of a lender than a real estate investor. So I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. You have a pretty broad a range of things that you do. So I want to ask my favorite question of every single person who comes here. Why did you get into real estate investing?
Because I was stupid. No.
Yes, sir, dude.
I don't think that was the answer.
Now tell us how stupid you were. We want to know.
It was honestly, there's no grandiose story. It was really an accident. My friend's parents bought a trailer in a vacation community outside of New York City, and it was in the Pocono Mountains, and all of us were up there for a barbecue. We're hanging out. It's the weekend. And as we were sitting there talking, we looked around and said, you think if we buy one of these, people would want to come out here and rent it, right? To stay for the summer, stay for the weekend, whatever. And, we looked at each other and said, yeah, obviously, people are coming up here already. So we said, all right, let's buy one. It wasn't any more grandiose than, we're going to be these grand real estate investors. We were just pretty decent at math and had a little bit of cash. And the total leap of faith, I would say, on doing it was about $25,000 to buy one. And my end of it was all of $5,000. So we pooled our money, bought one, and it was good. Just the mistake was, I think, buying the next 2. And then this was so early on. Why I say I was stupid. It was so early on. I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know that you could buy a lockbox to hang on the door with a key. And so I was driving up from Brooklyn to the Poconos to let people in and out, which was a 5-hour round trip. So imagine that somebody's renting for a long weekend, and I would drive up one way and back, and then drive up again, one way and back. And so that was the suck. I mean, it was the awful part, but truly it was the entryway, right? It was, all right, let's do this. Let's try it. And we did. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. Everybody has a story that's really interesting and how they got in. And now that you're in and you've been in for a while and expanded the portfolio and done many things, like
yes,
real estate is great. You just don't have to buy a rental. You don't have to do a flip. There's so many things you can do, and you've certainly done them. What do you love most about real estate?
Numbers. I love the numbers, honestly. So Andrea knows this. I mean, we are friends. And by the way, that story of jumping into real estate, that's 20 years ago now. It was horrifying to think like, oh my God, it's been 20 years. So over the years, it's the numbers. I had a career, almost 20 years of engineering and design. And so when I shifted over to full-time real estate, it was just numbers to numbers. I was used to spreadsheets and numbers before. I do spreadsheets and numbers now. That's the part I love. I love the math part of it. Definitely second place. It's pretty wild when you lend to somebody and you see a property go from damaged husk to a beautiful new home for somebody. That's amazing. And I love walking through a project and knowing that I was the one who funded this, and it's thanks to me that this exists. But to me, numbers on a spreadsheet.
Wow, I have to say you are probably the first person we've had on that said numbers was what they love about it. So
Hmm.
that's, I love real estate. I hate houses. So yeah, I love all the things you can do with it, which is why I love what you do. You're so
Yeah.
well-rounded in doing multiple things, not just being a landlord. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
so
That's the part I like least.
No, I mean, listen, some people get into this because they want to be a landlord, because they want to provide the housing. They want to know
Yes.
that they're doing a good deed. And it sounds like you found your niche. It sounds like you found a way to translate your professional skills that you took with you into real estate, into your strategy. So like this to me sounds like your unique advantage, your unfair
Hmm.
edge against the whole marketplace. Like how do you feel about that? And like kind of do you feel like it's your superpower to like have numbers in your like
Yes. 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 Absolutely. That is my unique, I want to say, superpower. It's also why I'm happy to help investors who, for example, come for, to borrow. One of the things that we tell them as a company is that we will make sure your deal doesn't suck. That's first and foremost, right? So we will look over the total numbers to make sure that, hey, is this actually profitable for you? Whether it's a rental, whether it's a fix and flip, it doesn't matter. It's the numbers, right? If somebody brings us a deal and they're looking at a flip and that flip has $1 of profit, we need to have a conversation. And I'm happy to have that conversation and go over the story of what they're doing and how it translates to the numbers and what it looks like on a page. Yeah, that's vital.
I
Um,
absolutely love that, Mark. One of the things that
mm,
when I'm teaching people about what to do for money, I suggest that first deal be a hard money lender.
mm-hmm.
Like you,
Yep.
I've certainly put people
Yeah.
to you before because you go through deals. You explain why it's not good. You're not just
Mm-hmm.
saying no because you don't want to give them the money. You
Right.
explain why it's not going to work for them. And that's so important because people don't get it. Like they see the numbers, they see some numbers, not all of them, don't pull it together, don't understand where they're buying. And having someone like you be behind them is really an important piece of the puzzle. I love it. Um, it's so important that you do that.
Thank you.
So we talked about what you love. What's your biggest challenge or struggle in real estate lately?
Building a new company, I would say, is the biggest challenge. Having to build a company at all. So, yeah, for anybody who's read E-Myth, there's a term called the entrepreneurial seizure. Okay. And I certainly had mine. I'm an engineer. I'm used to developing products. What's the big deal? I've got patents to my name. This is easy. I know what I'm doing. And then you start a company, and suddenly you go from the guy who's doing the tasks to you're the head janitor, the mailroom clerk, you're running the company and looking at the bills and everything else. And suddenly I realized it's a completely different skill set. And it was a skill set I was not prepared for. I'm going to be right. The point of this is not to be like, yeah, I'm the greatest, right? It's for people to learn something real. So while I was really good at numbers and really good at designing products and really good at owning my real estate, making sure the numbers were good and everything, running a company, starting one, that's not my skill set. And so the last few years of growth have been actually not necessarily in the real estate side and that aspect, but actually, how do you run a company? When I walked around, it's actually great. I got to meet the CEO of one of the bigger lending companies in the country, and we were having drinks at a cocktail hour. And I turned around and I asked them, I said, how do you hire? Right? They've got hundreds of employees. I said, what's your philosophy on hiring? And he turns around and he goes, honestly, he goes, skills you can teach. He goes, I ask them, I look at them and I evaluate, would I want to spend an inordinate amount of time with them? I was like, wow, right? That's all his entire answer was, do I want to spend a lot of time with this person? That was the hiring philosophy, right? So, but that's a skill set. I didn't know this. I still don't. Well, thanks to him, I know this. So the biggest challenge I have to say has been learning the skills and translating my abilities to actually starting and running a company.
And I think that's really poignant because most people who start and want to be in real estate, they think of it as owning assets. They think of it
Hmm.
as owning buildings and putting people in them, right? But that's a huge understatement, right? The majority of running your portfolio has to do with interfacing with the many people that it takes to keep your asset profitable and protect your asset from damage, to make sure that the people who are living there, who are, by the way, paying for the privilege to live there and providing you your cash flow, they're your
Hmm.
customers, basically. And knowing how to deal with all of these seemingly disparate pieces, like that's
Hmm.
what being in the business of owning real estate or building a business that supports real estate portfolio owners, like
Yep.
all of these pieces are things that need to be considered. And so, like, I love what you're saying is like my biggest struggle in real estate is building a business, because that is exactly what the company that Andrea and I founded, Own Your Income, that's exactly
Hmm.
why we did so. Because building a portfolio and wanting legacy, wanting passive income is a noble and worthy cause and goal. However, you just hit the nail on the head, knowing how to build the systems and backfill all of the people that it takes a village to
Hmm.
create a profitable business model with these assets and these residents as your customers is a whole other ball of wax. You need to surround yourself with people who, like your friend there, people who have walked the path, who can show you what maybe you're not already seeing, looking through your blind spots. So I love that at the beginning of this, Andrea talked about, your wife runs a property management company
Yep.
and you bring her coffee. Like all of those, I think it was 9 doors she said that you have in your portfolio.
9 properties. They're multi, so actually the door number is higher.
Uh-huh.
Which and it's not like a, oh, excuse me, it's more doors. No, it's because it's multifamily. It comes with its own caveats. No, 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 no. It
Right,
comes
right.
with its own challenges of inter-tenant friction as well. I, I
Absolutely.
have stories. I,
Oh boy.
Listen, I have stories of what happens between tenants, and it's like you sometimes listen. It's like, no way, this can't be real, but it is. And so it's just to point out that yes, we own 9 properties, so yes, but also because there's more doors, there's the challenge, like I said, of inter-tenant stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like you're you're in a very unique position where you're not necessarily quote unquote self-managing. You've developed a
Yeah.
company to
Yes.
handle the interactions of all the things. And so like what I would almost like be like, get your wife over here. We want to talk to her. But like what parts do you think, why did you create that kind of company, and what parts do you love or not love about managing your portfolio?
Hmm. Well, why we created it was because we ended up with enough doors of our own where suddenly it made sense to have the systems to it. That was number one. Then we had friends who asked us to help them purchase properties in the same area because it was profitable, still is, and they were asking us to manage for them, right? They knew that they weren't going to, they had no intentions to, but they wanted the real estate, but wanted someone they could rely on. And I don't know if at some point this question will come up, but if you're going to ask me what's the biggest thing I learned about owning real estate and having, rentals, management. That is the most important thing. Nothing else matters. I mean, obviously we can discuss, which state is better for landlords, which state is better for tenants. We can have that conversation. But leaving that aside, the biggest decision on owning real estate and where you're going to own it is the management. If you don't have management, we're not having a conversation about owning real estate.
A hundred
So,
percent. One of the things that you said was,
mhm.
it made sense to have a company once you had to have processes, and I would beg to disagree with that. I believe that your wife had processes long before you started the property management company, because you don't manage any property without good processes, or you don't manage it effectively. That's something that I learned 40 years ago, that understanding the processes you need to build it effectively makes a huge difference.
So I just want to point out, you said something very vital there, effectively.
Yes.
Again, you have to, we have to consider the fact that not everybody has a very well thought out plan. Sometimes you kind of move and groove, and this has been definitely my journey through real estate life and everything else. I don't always have the most thought out plan. Sometimes it really is, well, let's do this and we'll figure it out on the fly. It doesn't sound, it sounds bad. I get it. But all of your audience, everybody listening to this right now, right? You all have skills from whatever you're doing in life. So those skills will translate, and you can rely on those skills, right? So whatever you're doing in your day, you can rely on the skills you have in order to carry you through the challenging situations. Now, whether you plan or not, obviously you should. I'm not saying that we always did. Okay. So sometimes we have to figure it out. But as we built up our doors, see, initially when we just had our properties, it was easy. If we make a mistake, we'll fix it. It's ours. Then when we got to enough doors, suddenly it became a question of, well, we need to do this better, because with this many properties, this many doors, we need to keep track better. We need to have better systems. So then the systems were built out to where now, well, wait a minute, now we can manage for somebody else because we actually can handle business for them. And it was always interesting, because then we got, at one point, we had a really large investor purchase like a portfolio of hundreds of doors. Okay. We doubled the number we were managing in one shot. That was a crazy stretch, because you think the systems are in place, and then you have this massive workload, and you get to find out where it works and where it doesn't. We handled it. We did really good, right? Portfolio got stabilized. In the end run, he sold at a profit. Everything was fantastic. But we grew. That expansion allowed us to, when he sold it, to contract back down, say, okay, this was great. What do we need to clean up now? And then we were able to, again, grow to that same number, but now comfortably, instead of struggling and going, okay, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
This is the entrepreneurial message to anyone who's looking to get involved in real estate. As a business consultant outside of these doors, I have clients who've done the same thing in their bookkeeping business and their financial services practice. Take on more than you think you can. It will expand your capacity, and being willing. I love what you said about being willing to build it as you go, because what most people miss is that the feeling of I'm not ready is actually a protection mechanism to stay exactly where you're at. If you never cross that threshold to take the risk, you'll never reap the rewards of becoming the person who is adept at making those changes and learning those skills that are necessary. Nobody comes with a map. Nobody comes with a blueprint. I mean, unless you're Andrea Lane, who's been in this for plus years.
I didn't come with a blueprint. I built it like Mark.
You built one. But I think that willingness to grow is huge. And I'm really excited that, you're not only are you speaking to the business of real estate, but it's also, at the bottom line, it's the business of expanding yourself, which is something that I've been really passionate about for ages.
So I had a friend of mine, and this wasn't in real estate. He played a guitar. He played pretty good. And somebody asked him to give him lessons, and he was young and he wanted to make money. So he said yes. So what he did was he read about how to teach people how to do a guitar, and he stayed one step ahead of the person he was teaching. And so if you can stay one step ahead of the problems that you have, which doesn't always happen, usually you find the problems and then fix them. But it's, you can build it. The best way, though, is to have someone to help you who's been it before, because I know you've done like me, Mark, made every mistake they could possibly make. They just didn't know any better.
Yeah. And that's
The
exactly why the Own Your Income 8-week intensive is here. So for those of you listening, Andrea runs an intensive that is ongoing enrollment for people who are getting started, who have a handful of properties, who are looking to get advice from someone who has walked the road, got the scars to prove it, and can guide you as to what you need to focus on that you may not be looking at right now. So if that's you, please send us a message or a comment on whatever platform you happen to be streaming this on. You can always reach us at teams with an S at ownyouриncome.co. And so, Mark, we have just so enjoyed our time here with you. In a little bit, we're going to go off broadcast and get to the live studio audience here.
Sure.
But we want to know what are your exciting plans and initiatives that you have coming up over the next 6 to 12 months?
Exciting plans and initiatives.
And it doesn't include going on vacation all around the country.
Well, that initiative is actually happening in 2 weeks. We'll be on the road for a month. But exciting initiatives. So we at Always Capital, we rolled out a broker program to have people, refer us business. We'll pay them, and so we're doing that. We have a capital investing done safely group, and we're basically educating people on the different aspects of real estate, whether it's the more active lending, brokering, fixing and flipping, and owning rentals. And yes, we do put it under the active side, actually. And then the more passive, if you want to be a private lender, if you want to be an investor in a syndication, if you want to buy notes, right? So we talk about all of that and how people can do it safely, right? All the lessons that we learned along the way. More information is on awcnexus.com. You can take a look there. But the big initiative is just to keep working on refining, right? Essentially educating our audience and helping guide them while doing more loans and, I want to say cruising through 2026 while, seeing what happens with interest rates, what happens with real estate in general, and yeah. My
Wonderful.
exciting initiative is to work on my business and figure out how to get myself out of my business.
Bully to you, man. These are good. This is good stuff. Like building for exit. You should build your portfolio for exit. You should build your career for exit, because folks, we don't work to live. We don't live to work. Sorry, we work so that we can live. And that's the whole purpose of wanting a passive income legacy business and, getting the chops of how to do it. Come here, learn from people who are out there doing it, who are in the real estate game right now, and join our community. We are so grateful to have had you here, Mark. And so if you're interested in connecting with Mark and learning more about all the ways that he is invested and interested in helping other people with real estate, please go to AWC, that's Always Capital, awcnexus.com. So thanks a million, and we will see you next time. If you're watching this on our broadcast, don't go away. We have another amazing guest queued up for you right after this.
This wraps another episode of Built for This. If you're a real estate investor with a unique edge, apply to join us at builtforthisshow.com/guest.